Alright, today we are going to make a little foldable that's going to go in our notebooks, and it's going to help us to look at different motion graphs and how to interpret them. So what I want you to do is I want you to get 2 half sheets of paper, and any paper will do. I'm just using copy paper that's colored. And I want you to cut 3 flaps into the paper, but make them flaps. Only cut to about 1 inch or so. Okay, you want them flaps, not pieces. Alright, so once you've got your 3 flaps, just grab one of them. Okay, so here's one. And we are going to make different scenarios of position time graphs and velocity time graphs. So I'm going to make myself a graph, and we're not going to worry about numbers or anything. We're just going to look for general trends. Is it direct, inverse, constant, whatever it may be. So on the bottom, I'm going to put position, because that's, no, I'm not. I'm going to put time. Sorry. I'm going to put time. I'm thinking position time graph. That's why. Okay, so time, sorry, goes on the bottom. And then position goes up this side. Okay? And my first scenario is going to be a positive slope. Now, if a position time graph has a positive slope, that means that we are moving in a positive direction. And it means that we are getting further away from our origin. So if this 0, 0 is our origin, we are moving away from that. Okay? We are going to make a position time graph, and this time I'm going to put time on the bottom like I should, and position at the top. Okay. But this time we're going to make a negative slope. Okay. If our position time graph has a negative slope, that means we are moving in a negative direction. And we started out away from our origin, and we're getting closer to it. So if our origin is position 0, then we're getting closer to our origin. We've been away, and now we're coming back. Back to our origin. Okay? And then our final scenario is when we have just a straight line across. Okay? So a straight line across means that for every time that we check on this object, it's in the same place. So that means that it is not moving. Okay? It's not going anywhere. Alright, I'm going to take my flaps and I'm going to open them up, which instead of holding it like that, let's just flip it over. Okay, so flip it over. Once we glue it into our notebooks, this will be what opens up. So leave yourself that little margin over here that we didn't cut for you to put a real quick bead of glue and glue it into your notebook. So don't write about 1 inch over this way. We're going to repeat, except I'm going to change it up a little bit. Here's position 0. Here's a positive position, and here's a negative position. And this, of course, is still time. So now we can have negative values. We can go back behind our position 0, our origin. So I'm going to do just like I did on the front. I'm going to start with a positive slope. Okay, so positive slope means that we're still moving in a positive direction. But this time, instead of going away from the origin, this indicates that we are getting closer to the origin. Okay? It's kind of like if you gave someone a head start. You start back behind the starting line, and you start running towards the starting line, and then you'll pass the starting line and catch up with them. Alright, we'll do the same thing. Here's positive, negative, here's our 0. We're going to do, instead of a positive slope, we'll do a negative slope. This time we're going a negative direction. But we are going away from our origin. So this is like if you start on the starting line and get confused and go backwards. You're going back behind your origin. All right, and then if last time we did a horizontal, this time let's try a vertical. What does a vertical line indicate? Well, if this is time, that it's showing that at this one moment in time, we are everywhere at once. So this is not possible. Horizontal lines will work, vertical lines will not. Okay. Now, I had you cut 2 sheets of paper. I'm going to switch over and I'm going to use my pink. My pink is going to be very similar to my yellow, but instead of graphing position versus time, we are going to graph velocity versus time. Okay, we're still going to start with a positive slope. It's going to look just like it did on the other sheet, except for one, I put time and that was correct. And 2, this is a velocity time graph. So this is showing that my velocity is going up with time. So we are, just like on the position time, we're going in a positive direction. But the slope indicates that we are going faster and faster, so we're speeding up. Okay. We're going to make one that shows a negative slope. Now the big question, are we going in a positive direction or a negative direction? Forwards or backwards? Aha! We still have a positive velocity. So we're still going forwards. But we're going forwards with less and less speed. So we're slowing down. Okay, still a positive direction, but with less and less speed. Okay, and just like we did on our other sheet, we won't do the vertical again, but just like we did on the other sheet, let's have a horizontal line. Okay, now on the other, the position time graph, a horizontal line meant we were not moving. On a velocity time graph, though, our horizontal line means that we're constantly moving at this value. So we are moving. So we're going positive direction, and we are moving, but we're moving at a constant speed. Okay, we're not speeding up or slowing down. Okay. We're going to open our flaps, aka flip this thing over. So we're going to flip it over. Again, leave yourself room for that bead of glue to put it in your notebook. But we're going to repeat the process that we did on the front with negative values. Okay, this time we're going to have a positive slope, but on the negative side of our values. What does that negative side indicate? A negative velocity indicates that we're going in a negative direction, going backwards. Okay, so now the big question, are we speeding up or are we slowing down? Here we have a negative value. We're going a certain speed backwards, and we're getting closer and closer to what? To 0. So this is actually slowing down. Crazy, huh? We're slowing down. A positive slope indicates we're slowing down. But think, what's a negative times a negative? A positive, right? So here's your negative change in a negative direction, which is going to give you that positive slope. We're getting closer and closer to 0 in those negative values. Okay, Similar things going to happen. There's positive, there's negative velocity, there's time. We're going to do a negative slope. Okay, negative slope, we're going in a negative direction because we're in those negative velocity values, but we're getting further and further from zero, which means that we are speeding up. Okay, we're going faster and faster backwards. All right. And then finally, our horizontal line. We are going in a negative direction. Okay, negative direction, same speed. Okay, so there is how we are going to show motion graphs. Take your notes or your notebook, whoever you're using, put that down there and glue that on so you've got something that you can flip open and look at and refresh yourself on how those motion graphs are interpreted. Because if you notice, my pink and my yellow look exactly the same, but they're interpreted very differently. Okay, same thing on the back. They look the same, but they have very different interpretations depending on whether we're talking about velocity or talking about position. Okay, hopefully that will help you, give you some kind of aid for interpreting motion graphs.